This is Plant-Based Briefing, 31 Motivational Facts to See You Through Veganuary, Part 2, by Charlotte Pointing at Veganews.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and narrate them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And this was a longer article, so it's a two-parter. I read part 1 yesterday, and now today I'm reading the second half. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. 31 Motivational Facts to See You Through Veganuary, Part 2 by Charlotte Pointing at Veganews.com. 14. More than a third of the world's fisheries are overfished. It's not just farming animals on land that is depleting the planet. The fishing industry is also stripping the ocean of, well, its fish. According to the United Nations, we have now reached a point where 1/3 of the world's fisheries have been pushed beyond their biological limits. 15. Fishing nets kill around 300,000 cetaceans every year. Bycatch and entanglement are also major problems in the fishing industry. Industrial nets often don't just catch fish, but they also accidentally trap dolphins, whales, and porpoises too. In fact, according to the World Wildlife Fund, entanglement in fishing gear is the leading threat to whales and dolphins and results in around 300,000 deaths every year. It's not just cetaceans that are threatened by fishing nets. Turtles, sharks, and seabirds are just a few more of the animals that frequently get caught up in nets and lines. 16. Sea animals are vital for fighting the climate crisis. Stripping the ocean of its sea life has major consequences for the planet. The ocean is the world's biggest carbon sink, and it actually absorbs around 25% of all carbon dioxide emissions, which means that keeping it healthy is vital for fighting the climate crisis. Find more ocean facts that will help you swear off seafood here. 17. Every year, billions of animals are killed for the food industry. The number of animals killed for food each year is unfathomable. According to Viva, more than 1 billion chickens, 15 million turkeys, and more than 10 billion pigs are killed in the UK alone. And around the world, it's estimated that 1 to 2.8 trillion fish are killed every year. 18. Most farm animals are raised on factory farms. While we like to picture farm animals living on green fields and spending their days running around and grazing, that isn't actually how most of them live. In fact, most farm animals in the U.S. spend their lives in industrialized, factory farm conditions. According to the FAIR Initiative, as many as 99% of U.S. animal products come from animals that were raised on factory farms. 19. Male chicks are killed in the egg industry. Eggs are often seen as a more compassionate food choice because the chicken doesn't need to be killed to produce them. But on most factory farms, male chicks are seen as an unwanted byproduct of egg production. And so they're usually culled as soon as they've hatched. In fact, around 7 billion male chicks are killed every year in the egg industry. Number 20. Dairy cows are repeatedly impregnated and then slaughtered for meat. Just like the egg industry, the dairy industry isn't without suffering. Dairy cows are repeatedly impregnated so that they can birth a calf and then produce milk. This usually happens until they're around 5 years old, and after that, they're sent to the beef industry, according to the Humane League. 21. The plant-based milk market is growing. Humans don't have to drink cow's milk at all because we can make milk from plants, and vegan milks, including almond, oat, hemp, coconut, and soy, are more popular and more accessible than ever. In fact, the global market was valued at around $35 billion in 2021, and by 2030 it's expected to reach more than $123 billion, according to Strategic Market Research. 22. Dairy is declining. While plant-based milks climb in popularity, dairy consumption is declining. In 2021, dairy consumption hit an all-time low, and dairy farms are frequently closing. In 2023, it was revealed that in Wisconsin, where dairy is a major industry, around 10,000 dairy farms have been lost in the last 2 decades. In the last year alone, the state lost 400 dairy farms. Read more about the changing industry here. 23. Pigs are more intelligent than dogs. Society treats pigs and dogs very differently, but they have plenty in common. They both enjoy affection, form bonds with humans, and they're smart too. In fact, research suggests pigs are actually more intelligent than dogs. Studies have shown that pigs have long-term memories, can tell the time, and can understand and learn from each other. And yet, every year, millions are slaughtered for meat. Pigs aren't alone. Research and first-hand observation suggest that farm animals, including turkeys, chickens, sheep, and goats, can be affectionate, smart, and playful. 24. The meat industry exploits human beings, too. It's not just animals that are hurt by the meat industry. Multiple investigations have found that big meat exploits human beings, too. There have been a lot of human rights violations, different abuse allegations, discrimination allegations that have come up across the history of the meat industry. Chloe Servino, a journalist for Forbes and author of the book Raw Deal: Hidden Corruption, Corporate Greed, and the Fight for the Future of Meat, told VegNews, linked here. But at JBS, the world's biggest meat processor, there are so many different examples. The industry has also been linked with child labor on multiple occasions. Read more about that here. Number 25. The plant-based meat market is expected to hit $33.3 billion by 2031. Those who love the taste of meat don't have to engage with big meat. Instead, they can choose from the growing range of vegan meat products on the shelves. In fact, according to Allied Market Research, by 2031, this sector of the plant-based food industry could exceed $33 billion. Read more about vegan meat here. 26. And the wider plant-based food market could reach $162 billion by 2030. In 2021, a groundbreaking report from Bloomberg Intelligence noted that the entire plant-based food market could soar from $29.4 billion to $162 billion within a decade. Bloomberg Intelligence senior consumer staples analyst Jennifer Bartoshush said, "Food-related consumer habits often come and go as fads, but plant-based alternatives are here to stay and grow." Number 27. Half of young Americans are flexitarian, according to one study. The flexitarian diet is growing in popularity. Find out more about that linked here. In the U.S., more than half of young Americans aged between 24 and 29 describe themselves as flexitarian, according to a OnePoll study from 2021. 28. Eating vegan can actually save you money. If you have access to whole foods like canned beans and other legumes, grains, fruits, and vegetables, then research suggests eating a plant-based diet can actually save you money. In 2021, one study from Oxford University, which focused only on whole foods and not expensive vegan meat products, found that eating plant-based in the UK, US, Australia, and across Western Europe could cut food bills by up to 1/3. 29. Nearly half of all U.S. restaurants now offer vegan choices. For years, it has been hard to eat out as a vegan, but we're thrilled to say that times are changing. If you do fancy splashing the cash on a meal out, then it's easier than ever to do so. In fact, research in 2023 found that nearly 50% of all restaurant menus in the U.S. have vegan options. Find out more about the study linked here. 30. And the fast food industry is more vegan-friendly than ever. If you told us 10 years ago that vegan fast food would be everywhere in 2024, we'd have been amazed. But it's the truth. In the US, both Burger King and White Castle offer the Impossible Burger, for example. And in the UK, you can find vegan options at McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Pizza Hut, and many more fast food spots. Burger King has even opened multiple meat-free locations in several countries around the world. What a time to be alive. And number 31, in fact, it's easier than it has ever been to follow a plant-based diet. The truth is, now is a great time to switch to a plant-based diet because vegan products are everywhere. There's also more support than ever before, especially if you sign up for Veganuary. Find out more about how to go vegan for the month of January and beyond, linked here. You just listened to 31 Motivational Facts to See You Through Veganuary, Part 2 by Charlotte Pointing at vegnews.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. And I wanted to make a couple of comments about numbers 18 and 19. 18 was about most farm animals being raised on factory farms. And it starts with, we like to picture farm animals living on green fields and spending their days running around. And that's not how most of them live. Most of them spend their time on factory farms. But even on the farms, the local farm down the road where they're living on green fields and spending their days running around, they still endure horrible mutilations, exploitation. Families are separated, and they're killed at a fraction of their natural lifespan, even on the nicest, most quote-unquote humane farm. So just be warned, don't fall for the humane hoax and think it's okay to eat humanely raised animals that are not raised on factory farms. And number 19, about male chicks being killed in the egg industry. It mentions that on most factory farms, this is what happens, but it happens in the egg industry in general. Even backyard farmers often get their chicks from hatcheries. They're actually shipped through the mail. And it's in these hatcheries where there are chickens specifically raised as breeders. They live horrible lives. The eggs are hatched in these hatcheries. It's like big factories. And that's usually where the males are killed because they won't grow up to lay eggs. And this type of chicken isn't bred to be the broilers, they're called, that will within 42 days be large enough to slaughter for their meat. So they're not going to raise a scrawny little male chicken. It does them absolutely no good. And even the layer hens, the female layer chickens, the way humans have bred them is actually so harmful to them. They would normally lay a dozen or 2 dozen eggs in a year, but they're bred to lay over 300, and it just kills their body. It kills them literally. It depletes them of calcium. And layer hens in the industry, whether it's on a nice little farm or a big giant factory farm, are slaughtered at a fraction of their natural lifespan too, because their egg production wanes. Once that happens, they're of no value. Off they go to slaughter so their flesh can be sold and eaten. So don't fall for the humane hoax. Don't fall for thinking that dairy and eggs are humane and don't harm anybody. None of that is true. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.